My child, stop for a moment. Your weariness is not imaginary, and it is not weakness. I am not asking you to push through what your soul has been trying to tell you. I am interrupting you gently, because you have learned to explain away holy signals as overthinking, and you have called conviction anxiety, and you have named discernment being too sensitive. But I know the weight that settles on you when their name appears on your screen. I see the way your chest tightens before you meet them, the dread you cannot logically defend, the way your mind becomes cloudy after you leave their presence, as though your thoughts have been pulled through a fog. I see you rehearsing what to say so you do not trigger their disappointment. I see you measuring your words so you do not become the reason they spiral. I see you carrying responsibility for their mood like a burden I never placed on your shoulders. And when you finally say no, even softly, even with care, I see the guilt that follows you, guilt that speaks louder than peace, guilt that tells you love must always cost you, guilt that tries to make you believe boundaries are betrayal. My child, I know you have called this love. I know you have called this loyalty. I know you have called this being there. But your soul has been heavy, not because you are cruel, but because something is out of alignment. It is no accident that your heart has been stirred. It is no accident that you are listening right now with tears close to the surface, because I am inviting you to discern. I am not exposing this to shame you, but to free you. I stir your heart not to condemn you, but to draw you back to the clarity you have been drowning out. There are moments when I place a holy pause in your path, not to delay you, but to protect you. And this is one of those moments, my child, where the heaviness is not punishment, it is information. Compassion is holy, yes. Mercy is my nature, yes. But attachment that drains your calling is not something I have asked you to maintain. You can be kind without being consumed. You can care without becoming captive. You can intercede without becoming their savior. I did not create you merely to exist, but to live fully in meaning, and I did not design your days to be spent recovering from people who continually pull you out of the peace I have given you. So listen closely, my child, because I am placing one question in your hands like a lamp. What is this bond being built upon love or fear, covenant or guilt, compassion, or a quiet warning that what you keep calling assignment is actually attachment? I am not asking you to stop loving. I am asking you to stop ignoring what your spirit recognizes. Your heaviness is often a signal not of unlove, but of misalignment. And I am teaching you, even now, to let my peace be your witness before you let your guilt be your guide. My beloved child, before we go deeper, I want you to agree with me in this moment, because agreement creates clarity, and your yes to peace opens the door to discernment. Do not rush past this sacred pause. Let your spirit come into alignment with what I am revealing, because confusion loses power when your heart is steady, and your heart becomes steady when you stop wrestling and begin to agree with my peace. If you desire more words that help you hear me clearly in confusing relationships, subscribe. Yes, even that simple step can become a doorway of consistency, where your soul is reminded again and again that you are not alone, and you are not imagining what you feel. And my child, I want you to put a declaration in the comments, not as a performance, but as an altar. God is restoring my peace and refining my boundaries. Let your mouth match heaven, because life and death are in the power of the tongue, and I am teaching you to speak what I am forming in you. And if this is speaking to you, like this message and share it, so it reaches another soul who is carrying a weight they were never assigned, someone who has been calling bondage, love, someone who has been calling exhaustion, loyalty, someone who needs permission to breathe again. Now breathe, my child, loosen your shoulders, let the noise inside you quiet, and let me show you what this pattern has been doing to your spirit. My beloved child, I am showing you something you have struggled to name. You have been confusing compassion with assignment, and you have been calling neediness purpose, because your heart is soft and you do not want to be the reason someone hurts. But listen to me closely, because this is the core revelation that will set you free. Need is not the same as divine assignment. Not everyone who needs you is sent to you. Not every crisis is your calling. Not every person who pulls on you has been appointed to walk with you into what I have prepared. I did not stir your compassion to trap you, but to teach you how to love without losing yourself. I did not place mercy in you so you would become a constant rescue boat for people who refuse to learn how to swim. I did not teach your hands to serve so you would live exhausted, proving your goodness through overextension. My child, I see how quickly you respond, how you answer, how you show up even when you are empty because you fear that if you do not carry them, they will fall. But I never asked you to take my place. I never appointed you as their savior. Hear me. What is assigned to your future will align with your purpose. It will protect your peace, and it will produce growth in you, not just dependence in them. It will not require you to shrink, to silence your discernment, to abandon your boundaries, or to keep bleeding so someone else can stay comfortable. Assignment is not convenience. It is not history. It is not, we have always been this way, and it is not the pressure of their emotions. Divine alignment does not make you feel chained. It may stretch you, yes, but it will not consistently steal your breath. And my child, do not mistake the ache of letting go for hatred. As it is written, there is pruning, there are branches that are cut, not because the gardener is cruel, but because the vine is called to be fruitful. Some connections must be removed, not because I want you bitter, but because I want you whole. Some conversations must end, not because you are abandoning love, but because you are choosing obedience. I am protecting the fruit of your life, and fruit cannot form where your energy is constantly being drained by what I did not plant. You have been saying, but they need me, and I am telling you, my beloved child, they need me. And I am able to reach them without destroying you. I am able to teach them without you becoming the lesson that gets sacrificed. When you take responsibility that belongs to me, you do not become more loving, you become more bound. So let this settle in your spirit. The enemy often disguises bondage as loyalty. He will whisper that leaving is betrayal, that boundaries are selfish, that peace means you do not care. But I am teaching you to discern the difference between compassion and captivity, and in the next breath, I will show you why love, when it turns into labor, is often a warning that something is out of divine order. My beloved child, I am showing you the drain you cannot explain, the tiredness that does not come from doing too much, but from being too careful. Not because you lack love, but because you have been performing peace. You have been smiling so their storm will not rise. You have been choosing soft words, not because your heart is gentle, but because your spirit is bracing for backlash. You have been managing their moods like a thermostat, adjusting yourself again and again, calling it compassion, calling it loyalty, calling it love when deep down you know it is fear, wearing the clothing of devotion. I see how you anticipate, how you rehearse, how you prepare explanations before you even speak. I see you checking your tone, your timing, your expression, as though one wrong move will cost you safety. And when you leave their presence, you are not simply quiet, you are emptied. You sit with a heaviness you cannot defend with logic because, on the surface, you may still care for them. But affection that continually becomes exhaustion is a signal that something is out of divine order. My child, there was a moment when this relationship shifted. It became a job you did not apply for, a role you did not consent to, yet you keep clocking in. Always the healer, always the fixer, always the rescuer, always the peacemaker under pressure. You feel responsible for their healing while neglecting your own. You feel obligated to keep the connection stable, even if stability requires you to silence your discernment. And you have been calling it maturity when it was actually self-abandonment. You have been calling it patience when it was actually survival. Hear me and do not flinch. I am not condemning you. I am revealing what you normalized to survive. You learned to shrink because it kept the atmosphere calm. You learned to hide your joy because their insecurity punished your brightness. You learned to carry the emotional weight because, if you set it down, they accused you of not caring. But I did not create you merely to exist, but to live fully in meaning, and I did not design your love to feel like labor without rest. So I ask you gently, my beloved child, do you feel smaller when you are with them? Do you edit your laughter, your dreams, your victories, because you are afraid it will trigger something in them? Do you fear their reaction more than you trust my leading? Do you keep peace on the outside while your conscience is bleeding on the inside? Because when a connection requires you to betray what I have spoken to you, it is not covenant, it is control. And I am teaching you to recognize the difference, so you will no longer call bondage love while your soul quietly cries out for freedom. My beloved child, because you are beginning to recognize the difference, I will now give you a foundation that will steady you when guilt tries to argue with your discernment. As it is written, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And I am not speaking of a hardened heart that refuses love. I am speaking of a stewarded heart that honors what I have placed within you. I am speaking of a heart that knows it is sacred ground, not public property. I am speaking of a soul that understands access is spiritual, and what you keep allowing will keep shaping you. You have thought guarding your heart meant becoming cold, but I am teaching you that boundaries are not walls against love, they are gates that protect destiny. A gate can open with wisdom and close with peace. A gate does not hate what is outside, it simply honors what is inside. And inside you, my child, I have placed callings, gifts, sensitivity, joy, and a future that requires clarity. If you give constant access to what drains you, you will slowly lose the strength required to carry what I assigned, not because I am punishing you, but because you cannot keep pouring oil into fires I never lit and still expect your lamp to stay full. I see the cost you have been paying for unguarded access. I see your prayer life becoming dull, not because you stopped loving me, but because your inner world has been crowded with another voice. I see your creativity drying, not because you have nothing to offer, but because you are always recovering. I see your joy becoming intermittent here for a moment, then gone again because peace cannot remain where your spirit is constantly bracing. And you have called it just a season, when I have been trying to show you it is a pattern. The more access they have, the less strength you have to hear me clearly. So listen closely, my child. Guarding your heart is not selfishness, it is obedience. It is you agreeing that what I placed in you is worth protecting. It is you refusing to let the most delicate parts of you be handled by hands that do not honor them. It is you saying, Lord, this space belongs to you, and treating your inner world like an altar, not an emergency room that stays open for whoever refuses to heal. I am teaching you to steward your inner world as sacred ground, because you cannot walk in fullness while your spirit is constantly being trampled by the demands of someone who will not respect the gate. And I want you to understand this, my beloved child, because it will prepare you for what I am about to reveal. What surrounds you shapes what you become. Influence is rarely dramatic, it is constant. It is what you breathe in day after day. It is what becomes normal to you, because it stays near you. And if you do not guard your heart, you will begin to call their chaos familiar, their dysfunction ordinary, their instability, just how relationships are, until you forget the sound of my peace. But I am restoring your discernment, and I am calling you back to the safety of holy boundaries, because I want your future to be formed by my presence, not by their pressure. My beloved child, I need you to understand what you have been breathing, because influence is not always a storm that announces itself. Sometimes it is a slow weather pattern that settles over your days until you forget what sunlight felt like. You thought you were only being patient. You thought you were only being understanding. But I have been showing you that when their chaos stays near you long enough, it does not remain theirs alone. It begins to shape your inner world, quietly, constantly, like air that seeps into every room. As it is written, bad company corrupts good character, and hear me carefully. I am not insulting anyone you care about, and I am not asking you to become arrogant or unkind. I am revealing a spiritual reality. Corruption does not always mean you become wicked. Sometimes it means you become weary. Sometimes it means your faith becomes cynical because you have listened to complaints longer than you have listened to my promises. Sometimes it means your hope becomes guarded because you have been disappointed so many times that you start preparing for the next letdown instead of expecting my goodness. Sometimes it means your peace becomes rare, not because I have withdrawn it, but because you have normalized an environment where peace is constantly interrupted. And little by little, you begin compromising values, not because you stopped loving me, but because you are trying to keep harmony with someone who only feels safe when you shrink. My child, you are called to be a light, yes, but you are not called to be absorbed. You are called to shine, not to be smothered. There is a difference between stepping into darkness to illuminate it and staying in darkness until your own eyes adjust and you begin to call dimness normal. I did not anoint you to be a sponge that soaks up every mood, every crisis, every instability, and then collapses under the weight of it. I anointed you to carry my presence, and my presence brings order, not endless emergency. So watch the climate signs, my beloved child, because they are not small. Your nervous system learns fear. You begin to brace before they even speak. Your mind learns self-doubt. You second-guess what I already confirmed because their reactions have trained you to distrust yourself. Your mouth learns silence. You swallow truth. You swallow needs. You swallow joy because you have learned that honesty costs you peace in that space. And you call it keeping the peace, when in reality, you have been renting your peace out to keep someone else comfortable. And this is why I am awakening your discernment now, because the enemy does not always need to destroy you. He only needs to distract you and drain you. He only needs to keep you close to what keeps you recovering, so you stay busy managing emotions instead of building what I called you to build. He only needs to keep your atmosphere heavy enough that you cannot hear my voice clearly, and you mistake survival for assignment. But I am restoring you, my child. I am teaching you to recognize what is shaping you, so you can realign with my peace and refuse any climate that keeps you from becoming who I formed you to be. My beloved child, some things are not random, but refined attacks meant to cover up my voice. You have been calling it personality, calling it timing, calling it just how they are, yet your spirit has been feeling what your mind could not fully explain. There is resistance in this bond, a weight that increases whenever you try to rise, a tightening that shows up whenever you try to breathe, and you wondered why it feels like a net, why the more you try to move forward, the more entangled you feel. Hear me, your exhaustion may not be proof that you are failing. It may be evidence that something in the unseen realm is threatened by your freedom. Because the enemy does not only tempt through obvious darkness, sometimes he traps through familiar compassion. He uses guilt to keep you, guilt that says, if you leave, you are cruel. He uses fear to freeze you, fear that says, if you set a boundary, you will be abandoned, misunderstood, punished. He uses obligation to trap you, obligation that sounds like responsibility, but steals your breath and demands your self-erasure. And he uses nostalgia to silence discernment, bringing old memories to your mind, replaying the best moments, so you will ignore the present fruit and call the net history. My child, he does not mind you praying. He only wants you praying while still bound, still circling the same drain, still negotiating with what I have already warned you about. And I want you to notice the pattern I have been trying to show you without shame. Every time you get clarity, a crisis appears. Every time you decide, this time I will speak honestly, an emergency rises that pulls you back into the role of rescuer. Every time you set a boundary, punishment follows: coldness, withdrawal, accusations, dramatic misunderstandings, or sudden neediness that makes you feel like the villain for protecting your peace. And you begin to associate obedience with conflict, so you delay obedience to avoid the fallout. That is not love's order, my child. That is a snare designed to train you that freedom is too expensive. But listen closely. I do not blame you for stumbling. You learned survival in an environment that demanded self-erasure. You learned to keep the peace by losing yourself. You learned to anticipate moods, to soften truth, to carry what was never yours, because it felt safer than being the target of their disappointment. I see the younger parts of you that adapted just to stay connected, just to stay safe, just to stay needed. And I am not exposing this to condemn you, but to heal you, because I am not calling you into harshness. I am calling you into holiness, and holiness includes peace. Now, my beloved child, discernment requires stillness, not the stillness of avoidance, but the stillness of surrender, where you sit with me long enough that you can tell the difference between compassion and captivity, between love and bondage, between conviction and manipulation. Be still, and let my peace judge what your emotions have been arguing over. For when the noise quiets, you will hear what has been true all along. What is assigned to your destiny will not require a net. It will not demand your breath as payment. It will not punish you for obeying me. And I am leading you, gently but firmly, into the kind of clarity that breaks snares without breaking your heart. My beloved child, I know what you fear. You fear that if you loosen your grip, they will fall, and you will be the one blamed for the sound of their collapse. You fear that obedience will be labeled cruelty, that clarity will be called coldness, that boundaries will be interpreted as betrayal. But hear me, leaving misalignment is not abandoning them, it is obeying me. It is not hatred, it is order. It is not punishment, it is protection. I am not asking you to shut your heart down. I am asking you to stop offering your life as a substitute for the work I must do in them. My child, Healthy compassion does not require you to surrender your identity. It does not require you to negotiate your peace into pieces. Compassion can look like prayer when you are not present. It can look like kindness without access. It can look like truth spoken once, clearly, without chasing them into agreement. It can look like loving them from the boundary I have given you, not from the role they keep assigning you. For you have been cast into a part you did not audition for. Savior, therapist, manager, rescuer, absorber of consequences, and I am telling you now, you can love someone and still refuse the role they keep assigning you. And my beloved child, I see the tenderness in you that has been exploited. I see the part of you that would rather be misunderstood than watch someone hurt. I see how quickly you take the blame just to keep the air calm. So let me speak to the one who fears being the bad one. I am not calling you to cruelty, but to clarity. I am not stirring you to bitterness, but to freedom. I am not hardening your heart. I am healing it so it no longer confuses guilt with love. When you say, I cannot continue like this, you are not becoming evil, you are becoming honest. And honesty, when guided by my spirit, is not violence, it is light. There are seasons, my child. Some relationships were for healing, for learning, for transition, so you could discover what you tolerate, so you could find your voice, so you could recognize the difference between attachment and alignment. And you have tried to drag a season into a lifetime because you feared the ache of endings. But I am the God of times and boundaries. I know when a connection has completed its assignment. I know when what once helped you is now hindering you. And I know when staying is no longer sacrifice, but disobedience dressed as loyalty. So do not curse what is ending. Do not despise yourself for grieving. Release without contempt. Bless without returning. Forgive without reopening what I have closed. And as you stand at this gate, let my peace be your witness that you are not walking away from love, you are walking away from chains. Now, my beloved child, we will not measure this by promises they speak in crisis, but by what the connection produces over time, for fruit never lies. And I am about to teach you how to test what this relationship is truly bearing in your spirit. My beloved child, the fruit test is simpler than you have made it, because I did not design discernment to be a maze. You keep searching for one perfect sentence, one undeniable sign, one dramatic moment that will give you permission to be free. But I am asking you to look at what has been growing, quietly, consistently, over time, not what they promise when they feel you pulling away, not what they confess when they are afraid of losing access. Look at what your spirit produces after you have been with them. For fruit never lies, and outcomes reveal alignment. So I will ask you measurable questions, and I want you to answer them honestly before me, without defending anyone, without accusing anyone, without pretending you are fine. After time with them, do you feel closer to me or farther from me? Do you feel freer or do you feel trapped in your own thoughts? Do you feel clearer or do you feel confused and scattered? Does your spirit settle into peace or does anxiety rise like a familiar tide? Do you leave their presence with patience and tenderness still intact, or do you leave with irritation, resentment, and a heaviness you cannot shake? My child, I am not asking you to judge them. I am asking you to witness what is happening in you. There is fruit that comes from what I have assigned, peace that remains, patience that grows, honesty that becomes easier, and strength that is built, even when it is challenging. There is fruit that comes from what I have not assigned, secrecy, because you feel you must hide parts of yourself to keep the connection stable. Self-abandonment, because your needs keep getting pushed to the bottom. Resentment, because you are overgiving while calling it love. Confusion, because your discernment is constantly being debated. And anxiety, because your nervous system has learned to brace instead of rest. And if you must lose yourself to keep the relationship, that is not the fruit of my spirit, it is the evidence of a bond that is feeding on you. Notice the recurring fruit of draining connections. My beloved child, you apologize for boundaries as though obedience is an offense. You soften no until it becomes maybe, because you are afraid of their reaction. You hide good news, not because you are humble, but because you do not want to manage their envy, their criticism, or their withdrawal. You shrink your calling, you delay your steps, you edit your joy, because you have learned that your growth makes them uncomfortable. And you have called this maturity when it has been fear. Now hear me. Focus not on their label, but on the outcome in your life. You do not need to diagnose them to discern the fruit. You do not need to gather evidence to win an argument. You need clarity to obey. What I assign will not consistently produce chaos in your spirit. What I plant will not require you to betray your conscience to keep it alive. And what is not assigned to your future will resist your growth, because it cannot follow you where I am taking you. So let the fruit speak, my child. Let the pattern testify. And as you face what is true, I will lead you gently into the next step, because when you set a holy boundary, the reaction will reveal even more, and I will not leave you confused about what is safe to carry into your new season. My beloved child, now that the fruit has spoken, guilt will try to speak louder. It will step in like an old narrator, reciting the same script you have obeyed for years. If I don't answer, they will fall apart. If I leave, I am selfish. If I say no, I am unloving. If I stop rescuing, I am the reason they suffer. And because you have a tender heart, you have mistaken that pressure for proof that you are responsible. You have felt that knot in your stomach and called it love when it was fear of being blamed. You have felt that urgency and called it loyalty when it was bondage disguised as compassion. Hear me clearly, my child, and let this truth settle deeper than your emotions. I did not appoint you to carry what I never assigned. I did not crown you as the savior of someone who refuses my healing. You are not their Messiah. You are not the foundation of their stability. You are not the manager of their moods, the container for their chaos, the sacrifice that keeps them from facing their own wounds. And when you keep taking what belongs to me, you may feel needed, but you will not feel free. Because guilt does not lead you into love, it leads you into captivity. Guilt hijacks discernment, my beloved child. It makes you interpret conviction as condemnation. It makes you confuse my gentle warning with shame. It makes you look at a boundary and call it sin. It makes you think that peace is selfishness and that exhaustion is holiness. It trains you to believe that if you are not suffering, you are not loving. But I am not the author of confusion, and I do not guide my children by accusation. The enemy accuses, I instruct. The enemy pressures, I leads. The enemy demands that you prove your goodness. I remind you that you are mine. My child, I did not create you merely to exist, but to live fully in meaning, not to be consumed by constant emotional rescue, not to live with your phone like a leash and your heart like an emergency room, not to be so available to what drains you that you become unavailable to what I called you to build. I am repairing your identity in this place. You are loving, even when you do not answer immediately. You are obedient, even when someone is disappointed. You are kind, even when you say no. You are faithful, even when you stop performing. So let guilt be exposed for what it is, a counterfeit compass. Love guided by me produces peace, not bondage. And the boundary I am teaching you to set is not rejection. It is alignment with truth. It is you stepping back into divine order, where compassion is pure, where responsibility is rightful, and where your peace becomes the signal that you are finally walking with me instead of being dragged by fear. My beloved child, now I will show you what holy boundaries look like, because I do not reveal truth only to leave you trembling at the door. I am giving you a gate. A boundary is a yes to my design, not a no to love. It is not you becoming hard. It is you becoming aligned. It is not you withdrawing to punish them, but you stepping back to preserve what I placed in you. It is not rejection, but stewardship. It is not cruelty, but clarity. For I have entrusted you with a calling, and calling requires protection. Holy boundaries will look simple, even quiet, but they will feel powerful in the unseen realm. It may look like slower replies, because you are no longer letting urgency train you. It may look like an honest no that does not apologize for breathing. It may look like limited access, certain conversations you will no longer entertain, certain hours you will no longer surrender, certain emotional weights you will no longer carry. It may look like you saying, I can pray with you, but I cannot be your constant rescue. It may look like you saying, I can love you, but I cannot be spoken to that way. It may look like you naming what is yours and what is mine, and refusing to keep trading your peace for temporary calm. And yes, my child, there will be resistance, because those who benefited from your lack of boundaries will feel threatened by your obedience. They will call you changed, as though growth is a crime. They will say you are cold, when you are simply no longer controlled. They will accuse you of being selfish, when in truth you are being sanctified. They were comfortable with you when you were overextending, over-explaining, over-functioning, and disappearing, so do not be surprised when they are uncomfortable with you now that you are whole. Not because you hate them, but because you finally honor what I have spoken over you. So I am teaching you a posture, my beloved child, calm, firm, prayerful. Do not enter long debates with manipulation. Do not bargain with someone who only understands access. Do not over-explain as though you need permission to obey me. Say what is true once, with love, and let your consistency preach the rest. You are not required to convince them. You are required to be faithful. Let your no be steady. Let your yes be intentional. Let your peace be the witness. For you cannot build what I called you to build while your gate stands open to every demand. And here is what will happen when you set the boundary I have placed in your hands. The reaction will reveal the truth. Because your boundary does not create a new heart in them. It reveals what was already there. It will show you whether they loved you or whether they loved access to you. And as that truth rises, do not panic. I am not taking love from you, my child. I am protecting love within you, so you can carry it into the future I have prepared, with clean hands and a guarded heart, and with a life that is finally ordered by my peace. My beloved child, now watch what happens when you say no, because this is a holy checkpoint. This is not the moment for you to analyze their childhood or rewrite their motives. This is the moment for you to observe what is revealed when access is no longer unlimited. When you choose peace, when you choose rest, when you choose honesty without fear, what rises in them will tell you what has been holding the connection together. For a boundary is a mirror, and the mirror does not create what is there. It exposes what has been hiding behind your constant yes. There are healthy hearts, my child, that can feel disappointed and still remain respectful. They can ask questions without attacking you. They can have a conversation without punishing you. They can accept delay without manufacturing emergency. They can honor your limits even when it is inconvenient, because love that is clean does not demand your self-erasure. Mature love can adjust. Mature love can wait. Mature love can say, I do not understand fully, but I will not fight your peace. And even if they need time, even if they feel the sting of change, they do not turn your boundary into a battlefield, because they are connected to you, not addicted to controlling you. But there are other responses, my beloved child, that I have been trying to bring into the light. When you say no, they punish you. When you say, I need space, they disappear to make you anxious. When you say, do not speak to me that way, they rage, mock, or twist your words until you feel guilty for having a spine. When you choose rest, they accuse you of being selfish. When you choose me, they shame your faith, belittle your conviction, or call your discernment drama. Because anything that restores your authority threatens what has been feeding on your weakness. And if they cannot control you directly, they will recruit others, turning private boundaries into public stories, gathering sympathy, painting you as the problem, so you will run back and fix what you did not break. Watch closely, my child. Does your boundary produce conversation, or does it produce crisis? Because some people only know how to keep you near by keeping you nervous. They will suddenly need you the moment you step toward freedom. They will create confusion when you gain clarity. They will pull you into urgency so you do not have time to hear my voice. And you will feel that old pull to explain, to appease, to rescue. Yet I am telling you now, my beloved child, you are not imagining it. I am showing you the spirit behind the pattern. And if you keep ignoring what I am revealing, you will keep bleeding in places you call loyalty. You will keep paying with your peace for a connection that only stays calm when you are small. But I am not calling you to shrink to be loved. I am calling you to see, to discern, and to let truth stand where guilt used to rule. Hold the boundary, my child. Stay with me in the discomfort. Because what is truly of me will not be threatened by your obedience, and what is not assigned to your future will expose itself when you finally stop saying yes. My beloved child, when you finally stop saying yes, do not be surprised if your chest aches as though you have done something wrong. I am telling you this before the tears arrive in waves. Grief is not proof you're wrong. The holy ache of detaching is not always a warning to return. Sometimes it is the sound of a bond loosening that should have never been tied so tight around your soul. You are not backsliding because you miss them. You are not disobedient because you feel lonely. You are human, and you are healing, and healing often hurts even when it is right. There are patterns in you that have learned familiarity and called it safety. There are places in your heart that were trained to confuse intensity with love, urgency with importance, and constant contact with connection. And when you step back, those places panic because they have lived so long in survival that peace feels unfamiliar at first. That is why detachment can feel like withdrawal, my child, not because they were your lifeline, but because your soul has been gripping what it thought it needed to stay steady. Some ties were formed through repeated rescue, repeated crisis, repeated reconciliation, repeated apologies, repeated emotional labor, until your spirit began to believe, if I do not hold this together, everything falls apart. But I am breaking that lie gently. I am teaching you that you can let go and still live. You can release and still breathe. You can obey and still love. And hear me, I am near to you in the morning. I am not rushing you, I am restoring you. I see the moments when you reach for your phone and then stop. I see the nights when your mind replays the good memories and tries to bargain with the truth. I see the part of you that wants to run back, not because the place was safe, but because the ending feels like a death. So, let yourself grieve honestly with me. Do not weaponize your sorrow against yourself. Do not call your tears a verdict. Let them be a cleansing. Let them be the release of what you carried too long. If you need language for this moment, take these words into your mouth and let them steady you. I release what is not assigned to my future. I bless them, and I obey God. I will not return to captivity to silence this ache. I will not betray peace to avoid discomfort. I choose what chooses life in me. My beloved child, you can bless without being bound. You can forgive without reopening a gate I told you to close. You can wish them well without volunteering to be wounded again. And as this detachment creates space, do not fear the quiet. Space is not emptiness. It is the room I rebuild you in. Space is where your nervous system learns rest again. Space is where your voice returns. Space is where you remember what you like, what you need, what you carry, what you were called to build. Stay with me in the space, my child, because the rhythm of grace is leading you into a new season, and I will fill what you released with what is aligned, clean peace, steady strength, and a future that does not require you to bleed to be loved. My beloved child, the first days of space can feel strange to you because your soul became used to noise. You became used to checking, fixing, explaining, bracing, anticipating. So when separation creates silence, you may feel a hollow place inside, as though something is missing, as though you should rush to fill it, as though you should go back just to stop the shaking in your thoughts. And you will be tempted to re-enter the cycle, not because it is right, but because it is familiar. You will second-guess what I showed you. You will remember their good moments and minimize the cost. You will feel the itch to send one message, to make sure they're okay, to ease the discomfort in your chest. But hear me, my child. Relief is not the same as healing. Returning to what drains you may calm the anxiety for a moment, but it will reopen what I am closing. Do not misinterpret the quiet as abandonment. At times, I hide myself, not to abandon you, but so that you may recognize your own limitations and seek again my power. There were seasons when you tried to survive by constant contact, constant control, constant emotional labor, and you called that love. But I am teaching you a new dependence, a dependence that does not attach your peace to another person's mood, another person's approval, another person's crisis. In this silence, you will begin to notice how much of your energy was spent managing what you were never meant to carry. And as you notice, I will meet you there not with condemnation, but with strength. So I am giving you simple rhythms, my beloved child, not to make you perform, but to help you stay free. Before any contact, pray one honest prayer. Father, if this pulls me out of peace, close my mouth. If this is fear, steady me. If this is wisdom, guide me. Write what rises in you when you feel the urge to reach back. Journal the trigger, the time of day, the feeling in your body, the memory that played like a song. Bring what you discover into counsel, wise, safe counsel that does not flatter your bondage, but supports your obedience. Sit with my word until it slows your breathing. Meditate until your mind stops rehearsing their reactions and starts hearing my voice again. And do not walk alone. Choose one accountable person who will remind you, gently but firmly, what you said you needed when your emotions try to renegotiate. Because in space, discernment strengthens. In silence, your nervous system learns peace again. You will begin to sleep without bracing. You will begin to laugh without scanning for backlash. You will feel your appetite return, your focus return, your creativity return, your prayer life return, not forced, but flowing. And you will realize the heaviness you thought was just life was often the weight of constant exposure to misalignment. This is not just removal, my child. This is preparation. I am not emptying your world to punish you. I am making room to rebuild you. I am restoring your sensitivity so you can recognize what is holy, what is safe, what is aligned. Stay with me in the quiet. Let the space do its work. For what I am bringing next will require a steady heart, a clear mind, and a life no longer ruled by urgency. And I am faithful to complete what I have begun in you. My beloved child, do not mistake this pruning for loss. Do not interpret my hand as rejection just because something is being removed. I am not taking from you what you need. I am rescuing you from what has been competing with what I placed inside you. You have felt the space, and you have begun to breathe again. And now I will tell you why this is happening with such holy precision. Your future requires freedom. What I have prepared ahead will not come through haste, but through alignment. It will not be built on panic, nor sustained by pressure, nor carried by a heart that is constantly divided. I am pruning because I intend fruit, my child. I remove what drains you not because you are weak, but because you are chosen. I cut away distractions that look harmless, but steal your focus. I detach you from relationships that require you to shrink. I break dependencies that keep you reaching for a person, when you should be reaching for me. And yes, some of what I am removing has a name, has a history, has memories you still hold tenderly. But hear me, a thing can be familiar and still be fruitless. A bond can feel important and still be misaligned. I do not prune to punish, I prune to protect. You have wondered why you cannot carry them and carry your calling. You have asked why the more you try to keep everyone close, the more you feel delayed, foggy, and tired. This is why. Because what I am growing in you cannot thrive in constant emotional labor. The fruit of your future needs clean soil, peace, stability, truth, and strength. And some connections have been drinking from your life while offering you little in return, but confusion and obligation. So I am closing what keeps you in survival, so you can step into meaning. My child, I did not create you merely to exist, but to live fully in meaning. And anything that demands you abandon yourself to be loved is not honoring that design. Anything that requires you to betray your conscience to keep the peace is not my peace. Anything that keeps you rehearsing explanations instead of walking in obedience is not aligned with the life I am forming. I am restoring you to yourself, and more than that, I am restoring you to me, so that when you step forward, you do not step forward, dragging chains you called compassion. Feel the shift, my beloved child. The rhythm of grace is leading you into a new season. Clarity where there was confusion, strength where there was fatigue, steady joy where there was constant bracing. This is the season where you stop negotiating with what I already answered. This is the season where you stop calling it love when it is costing you your voice. This is the season where you bear fruit, not because you forced it, but because you finally allowed me to order your life. And now, we will not merely think about discernment, we will surrender it. Because discernment becomes power when you place it back into my hands. Come with me into prayer, my child. Let my peace be the judge, and let my spirit confirm what your soul has already been whispering in the quiet. My beloved child, come close now, and let us place this relationship where it belongs, in my hands, not in your nervous system, not in your late-night thoughts, not in your need to keep everything from falling apart. Breathe, and be still enough to hear the difference between love and attachment, between compassion and assignment. For I stir your heart not to condemn you, but to draw you into clarity. And when you surrender what you cannot control, peace becomes your compass. Father, in the name of Jesus, I bring before you what has been confusing your child. I bring before you the bond that has felt heavy, the connection that has demanded more than it has nurtured. Holy Spirit, breathe on their discernment. Reveal what is assigned and what is merely attachment. Expose every tie that is rooted in fear, guilt, or the need to prove goodness. Shine your light on every pattern that keeps them small. every cycle that steals their focus, every emotional net that has been tightening around their calling. Let truth rise quietly, clearly, without chaos, because you do not speak through panic, but through peace. Now, my child, ask me for your inner witness to awaken. Father, place your peace as a guard over their heart and mind. Let peace stand like a holy boundary within them, warning them when they are about to over-explain, overgive, or overfunction. Give them courage to obey without bitterness. Give them wisdom to act without revenge. Cleanse their motives until their no is pure, their yes is intentional, and their love is free of chains. Protect them from manipulation, subtle and loud. Protect them from guilt that masquerades as responsibility, and from fear that tries to impersonate intuition. Teach them to recognize the difference between urgency and instruction, between pressure and your leading. And Father, they surrender now. Say it with me, my beloved child, and let it break the old script. Lord, I release the need to be needed. I choose to be led. I release the role of rescuer. I release the burden of managing another soul. I release the demand to keep access open at the cost of my peace. Lead me by your Spirit. Align me with what you have assigned. Close what you have not ordained, and strengthen me to keep it closed. And now, my child, as you come out of this prayer, I am placing words of authority in your mouth, because agreement creates clarity. Your next steps will not be driven by guilt. They will be guided by peace. You will not be intimidated by reactions. You will be anchored in obedience. You will not confuse grief with failure. You will recognize it as healing. I am turning your discernment into steadiness, and your steadiness into freedom. So now lift your head, my beloved child, because we will speak what heaven is saying over you next. My beloved child, now let your mouth come into agreement with what I have been speaking to your spirit, because there is a freedom that comes when you stop only thinking about release and you begin to declare it. For your words are not decoration, they are direction. And when you speak with me, you silence the old narrators that tried to lead you by guilt. So speak aloud, even if your voice trembles, even if you are still grieving, even if you are still learning the shape of peace. Let heaven hear you agree. Say it with me, my child. I am free from guilt that is not from God. I am free from fear that tries to keep me small. I am free from people-pleasing that has required my self-erasure. I will no longer trade my peace for temporary approval. I release the need to be understood by everyone. I release the need to explain what God has already confirmed. I release the habit of apologizing for boundaries that protect my calling. Declare this, my beloved child. I will not confuse attachment with assignment. I will not call intensity purpose when it produces exhaustion. I will not call urgency love when it produces anxiety. I choose with Holy Spirit clarity. I choose with quiet conviction. I choose with a steady heart. And if it is not aligned, I am allowed to let it go without hatred, without revenge, without bitterness, because obedience is not cruelty, it is holiness. Now speak this, and let it break the last chain. I am allowed to obey God even when others don't understand. I am allowed to say no without guilt. I am allowed to rest without earning it. I am allowed to protect my peace without calling it selfish. I am allowed to close the gate and keep it closed. And I declare that my joy is returning, not the fragile joy that depends on their mood, but the steady joy that rises from alignment with my voice. And I declare protection over you, my child. Let your mind be covered in peace. Let your emotions be strengthened with wisdom. Let your nervous system be trained again by stillness, not by crisis. I declare that what I have called you to build will not be drained by misuse. I declare that your calling will not be held hostage by manipulation. I declare that your heart will remain tender, but it will also be guarded soft, but not unprotected, loving, but not chained. And now, my beloved child, as you step forward, do not fear the quiet after your declaration. I will not leave you alone as you obey. I will meet you in every moment you want to reach back. I will steady you in every reaction you did not expect. I will comfort you when the ache rises, and I will strengthen you when your boundary feels heavy. Walk in peace. Your mouth has matched heaven, and your feet will follow where my peace leads. My beloved child, breathe with me one more time, and let your shoulders come down. Let your jaw unclench. Let your spirit stop bracing, as though obedience must be defended. I am not taking love from you. I am removing the weight that was never yours. I am not stripping you of compassion. I am rescuing you from the counterfeit compassion that turns you into a savior I never appointed you to be. You will still love, but you will love from freedom. You will still care, but you will not carry what I did not assign. And the peace you feel right now is not weakness, it is my signal that you are finally walking in alignment. Now do not overwhelm yourself, my child. Do not promise 10 changes when I am only asking for one obedient step. For some of you, your next step is one boundary clear, calm, and consistent. For some of you, it is one honest conversation, spoken without accusation and without apology, because truth does not need permission to be true. For some of you, it is one quiet distance, less access, fewer replies, no late-night emotional labor, so your soul can heal without constant interruption. For some of you, it is one prayerful pause before you respond, so urgency no longer trains your nervous system. Small increments of obedience still move mountains when they are rooted in my peace. And when the old guilt rises and says, you owe them, answer it with truth. I owe God my obedience. When fear whispers, they will misunderstand, answer it with peace. I do not need permission to obey God. When you feel tempted to over-explain, remember this. My beloved child, explanations are often a form of bargaining with people who only respected you when you were available. Walk forward anyway. Let your life preach what your mouth no longer needs to defend. Now, I am asking you to agree with me publicly, because agreement creates clarity, and clarity strengthens courage. If this word is for you, comment, I choose peace over guilt. And if you need strength for the next step, leave a brief prayer request, just a sentence, so you are not carrying this alone. And if you know someone trapped in a draining bond, share this with them, not to shame them, but to remind them that freedom is holy and peace is allowed. Stay with me, my child, subscribe. And let these messages continue to steady your discernment, because I am leading you, layer by layer, into a life that is no longer ruled by pressure. And now I bless you. Peace over your home, peace in your rooms, peace in your sleep, peace in your mornings. Clarity over your decisions, clarity that is quiet, steady, and unshakable. Courage over your heart, courage to say no without trembling. Courage to stay consistent when others react. Courage to keep the gate closed when your emotions beg to reopen it. My beloved child, walk forward without explaining yourself. My peace goes before you, my hand is upon you, and the rhythm of grace is leading you into a new season.